What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another YouTube video.
Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love. I got a girl that compliments my fly, and when it goes down, I know she gon' ride.
Anymore, I can't help being slow.
Hey. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. My name is Tyler, aka... I already started the recording.
Mate, you now need to do an intro like that.
We are here. What is up, guys? My name is Tyler, aka Tyler China, aka Record Man, aka Tyler Browne. I am here with RibombeeTeacher.
AKA the guy that can't change his name and keep it in the same one.
I am here with RibombeeTeacher, as you just heard. How you doing, RibombeeTeacher?
I was doing good until I got dragged into this call. But yeah, I think we're here to do a team builder, right?
We just voted the team.
Alright guys, just to make it clear for you guys, we are of course Team RibombeeTeacher, and we are taking on the Auctioneers team coached by Argar and Euron Cat. They got a pretty interesting team, a pretty scary team, but I think our matchup is actually pretty nice. We're going to break down their team first, and then we're going to talk about what we brought, with a slight spoiler alert, as you can probably already see on the screen, but we'll get to that in a second. First up, they got the Mew, kind of a little bit less versatile than it was in previous gens, does lose access to both Toxic and Roost, but it is still incredibly versatile, gets every TM and technical record in the game, so can be physical, can be special, does get Swords Dance and Nasty Plot. Typically, a lot of Mew sets I've seen recently have been Dragon Dance variants, but you never quite know what you're going to get with Mew. Mew's always a tricky one. We do have answers for it, but not that many, but it's enough to keep us going. Next up is Togekiss. Togekiss can be scarfed, can be also be bulky, can be a really decent support set, does get access to things like Defog Roost and also Heal Bell, but can also be a very good scarf user, obviously with access to Serene Grace. Flamethrower burns always nasty, slash flinches, does get Aura Sphere as well to break down the bulky steals that it otherwise has trouble with, but yeah, generally a very, very annoying Pokemon. A lot of people hate Togekiss, but it's not that hard to break depending on what set he brings. Next up is Arcanine, often seen banded or Life Orb, can be supportive with Rocky Helmet when Intimidate, but we very rarely see that these days. Typically it's banded or mostly Life Orb at the moment in Gen A. Does get things like, of course, Flare Blitz, does get Wild Charge for Water types, does get Close Combat and for the Rock types that it can't break through, and Extreme Speed to allow it to Revenge Go. Does get a nice little recovery moving Morning Sun, which is... surprisingly, it's still there, even though I'm pretty sure it's an egg move, so it's not too bad. But it's not as reliable as things like Recover, or Roost, not the most reliable recover in the world. Can be affected by weather, but we're not really a weather team, so we can't abuse it that well. Next up is Rillaboom, kind of an average wall breaker. It's not that strong. It's got a decent attack stat and relatively okay physical bulk, but its speed tier leaves a little bit to be desired, but it does still get a decent amount of coverage moves, does get things like Knockoff, does get U-Turn, Earthquake, and of course Superpower. It does also get Drain Punch if you want more longevity, but more commonly it's not seen that often. And of course Drum Beating being a relatively solid stab move in itself. Right. Next up is Gastrodon, of course. Gastrodon is a water immunity still due to that Storm Drain ability, but of course only having that one weakness to grass-type attacks. Did lose access to Toxic, so it's not actually as good at stalling as it used to be, but it can still be annoying. Definitely a problem in a lot of teams. However, we've got plenty of Gastro answers that might spring a few surprises on them, most notably, of course, Mega Venusaur. But yeah, next up is Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan, of course, known for mostly Rapid Spin Bullet Punch as like a Webs answer. Is a really common answer to Ribombee, of course, because most Ribombees are Sash sets. Does get Iron Fist, of course, boosts the power of its elemental punches, goes a little bit ham. Definitely hits hard. These punch moves are kind of obnoxious. Bullet Punch, of course, being the most annoying because it's priority, and decent hit damage output. Next up, of course, is their Mega Scizor. Actually, kind of a strong mega. It does have a very high attack stat. Not very especially bulky, however, does get punished by fire moves quite easily. Typically, you see it with Sword Stance, as it can abuse it really easily with Bullet Punch. Does get knockoff and U-turn. Can run a few support moves, does get Roost. Does still get Defog, of course, and Toxic. Superpower is kind of interesting to take on fellow bulky steals, but often you don't see it too much. You tend to see Superpower on more regular Sizzle sets that are often running Choice Band. But there's no Pursuit anymore, which is kind of annoying. Can't hit the ghost types that well, but other than knockoff, of course. Next up is, of course, Zygarde 50. We have Zydogo. They've got Zygarde 50. Typically seen with a Dragon Dance set, potentially a Scarf set. Does get access to 1,000 Arrows, of course, which is the most broken ground type move in the game. Can run Glare or Toxic, but they're not actually that effective against us because we have Tapu Fini. Fini blocks status conditions in its terrain, so not that ideal for it. I could definitely see things like a Banded set coming, potential Scarf sets coming. Dragon Dance or Coil sets are also potentially likely. Does, of course, not get Power Construct. Has to rely on Aura Break, of course. That's worth noting. Next up, of course, is Nihilego. If Nihilego comes, I expect it to be Scarfed. Nihilego, Choice Scarfed, is kind of hard to beat with the Beast Boost ability, of course, buffing that special attack. Can definitely cause a lot of problems. Does actually, however, lack Earth Power, which is kind of important coverage for quite a few members of our team. Particularly things like the Garbodor, the Lucario, that really don't appreciate ground type heads, Cinderace as well. So it does still get decent coverage options. Does get things like Psychic, does get Grass Knot, does get Thunderbolt and Dazzling Gleam. Those are the more common coverage moves you tend to see on it. Does, of course, also get decent stabs in those Power Gem and Sludge Bomb moves. Can also run Sludge Wave if you want the additional damage output. Next up is Heliolisk. Pretty solid spec user, decent speed tier. Get access to Dry Skin and Solar Power. Of course, if we're trying to abuse weather, we would potentially run that. I could definitely see like Gastro running some kind of Rain Dance to try and abuse Heliolisk's Dry Skin. Does get access to Volt Switch, of course. Decent stab power in Hyper Voice and Thunderbolt. Does also get Surf, which is kind of a little nice bit of coverage move. Does make it a little bit harder to switch into. But yeah, Heliolisk is mostly a Rain abuser, if it can abuse it. Doesn't always, though. And last but by no means least on their team is Oricorio, which is kind of an interesting Pokemon. Oricorio, pretty low tier. Can be multiple different types, of course, dependent on its form change. But even if they do change form, they're typically only ever seen with Calm Mind sets. They're not really ever seen with anything else. So it's either Calm Mind, Roost, Hurricane, and it type move. And that's pretty much all you're expecting to get from it. So that's going to be their team. Tyler, take over our team.
Okay, actually, real quick, on the screen that you guys see, they have Malamar and not Oricorio, so I don't know if they made a trade or something, but on the dock it says Malamar, but they do with Oricorio.
Yeah, I believe it's an Oricorio. I was just looking at that myself because I noticed that myself. I believe that was a transaction they made.
Possibly, I'm not sure. But first member of our team is Mudsdale with the Rocky Helmet, Stamina, Ability with the Body Press, Stealth Rocks, Earthquake, and Toxic, Magic Speed, and Max Defense with 4 in Attack with the Impest Nature. I don't really go in and explain about stuff. I don't know if you like that.
So, obviously, most people will probably look at that and think of Body Press. Body Press being a Gen 8 move that actually is fantastic at abusing physical defense. Body Press is a move that does damage based on your physical defense instead of your attack. So combine that with Stamina's ability. Every time it gets hit, you're basically single-handedly buffing Body Press. And alongside that, with the Rocky Helmet, things like the Sizzle really does not want to hit Mudsdale in any way, shape, or form, because it's going to be taking Rocky Helmet damage and making Body Press a much more powerful move. Body Press is very spammable against their team anyway, as they don't actually have a Ghost type on their team unless Oricorio comes and is the Ghost form. Generally, it's fairly solid. Toxic, of course, outside of terrain is really annoying for their team, especially some of their bulkier mons like Gastrodon. Doesn't really want to take being toxic. Earthquake is generally very spammable against the majority of their team, except Togekiss anyway. So there's fairly simple Mudsdale set. There's nothing too complicated about it. Obviously, the sad part is it doesn't have recovery. So we do need to watch out for how much we use it. and how much we switch it in and manage its health correctly. But generally, once Mudsdale switches in, it's probably going to threaten something out anyway.
Indeed. Alright, let's go to the next Pokemon on the team, which is going to be Tapu Fini Aqua on the team. Jesus, my vote just went crazy. With the leftovers, Grass Knot, Defog, Moonblast, and Scald. Max HP, 4 in defense, and max special defense. With the Calm Nature, you're going to explain some more stuff in depth.
So yeah, of course, Grass Knot is fairly self-explanatory as it's there for Gastrodon mostly. Moonblast and Scald are generally very spammable moves, decent stabs. This job is mainly to switch in on things like the Togekiss. Togekiss really cannot touch, especially bulky Tapu Fini, all that well. Defog, of course, getting rid of entry hazards. They don't have the most hazards on their team, except for running things like Stealth Rocks on Mew, and a couple of little things. I think Nihilego gets Toxic Spikes. But there's not that much there, but it's important to have a defogger because, of course, entry hazards on our side of the field is not ideal. We do have a couple of mons that are not great against entry hazards, so being able to remove them pretty safely. The terrain, of course, is also nice because it does prevent things like Toxic or anything like that. We do need to watch out for that. Scald is there mostly just because it's spammable. It does take on the Arcanine nicely. Moonblast takes on pretty much everything that's not called Scissor, so... it's generally very much a bulky switch in. It's a decent pivot. That's what we're looking for with Tapu Fini.
Indeed, again. Alright, our next mon going on the team is Cinderace. However you say this name, nickname.
Goenji. Goenji.
That's how you say it. With
Shout outs to anyone who has ever watched Inazuma 11.
Alright, with the heavy duty boots, Blaze ability, max attack stat, 176 in speed with the Jelly Nature, which outspeeds Heliolisk at max speed, and 80 in HP. With Spyro Ball, however you say that name, Sucker Punch.
Ball? I think you mean Pyro Ball.
Pyro Ball, Sucker Punch, U-Turn, and Court Change. You want to go more in depth?
Yeah, of course, Sucker Punch is mostly there for Mew. Mew, of course, is very prone to getting revenge killed by priority moves. U-Turn is nice to be able to pivot out on anything, particularly at things that... the Cinderace doesn't really appreciate, like the Zygarde 50 is a good example. Core Change is a nice little new signature move that it got, which actually basically swaps entry hazards to the other side of the field. It does, of course, have the slight drawback that it does swap theirs over to our side, but it's an additional way to hazard remove. It's a pretty solid little move option. Heavy Duty Boots there means that we actually don't take entry hazard damage on the switch-in, which is kind of nice because we don't want to have our Cinderace worn down. Obviously, of course, we do need to watch out there's no recovery. We're not as fast as we can be, of course. We're not Scarf sets or anything like that. So we are outsped by Scarf users if they bring them. I don't think there's many Scarf possibilities except Nihilego or Zygarde 50. But either way, Sucker Punch is a revenge killer. U-Turn's there for pivoting. If we can U-Turn out into a couple of our other ones that are really kind of annoying for their team, especially Mudsdale against their physically offensive team, it definitely helps a lot. Cinderace is a very solid breaker and pivot at the same time.
Alrighty, now the next Pokemon on the team is Bitter Zygarde. Zygarde 10% with a choice band item, Aurora Break ability, max attack, 208 again, going for that Heliolisk speeds here with the 48 in HP. With the moves, 1000 Arrows, Extreme Speed, Stone Age, and Outrange. Want to go more in depth again?
Absolutely, of course. So Extreme Speed is mostly there as a revenge killer. Zygarde does a fantastic job of revenge killing in late game. Great cleaner in the general. 1000 Arrows, of course, is the most spammable move in the game. It's stupidly strong against a lot of this team. Stone Edge is actually kind of an interesting play. It's mostly there for Togekiss. It is also there potentially for Arcanine if he tries to switch it, but I don't ever see that coming. But Stone Edge generally hits a lot of his team for neutral or super effective damage, which is stupidly strong on a already heavily powerful Zydoggo. And yeah, we're looking at Outrage, of course. If we can, of course, get rid of that Togekiss, Outrage pretty much cleans up the majority of their team. So, of course, we are going to be looking for a late game finish with the Zygarde. We're not potentially going to be bringing it in early game. Part of the plan with this is to clean up at the end and pick up as many kills as it can.
Alrighty, the next Pokemon on the team is Asparagus Mega Venusaur, nicknamed after. Do you want to explain the story about A-Drive?
Yeah, fun little fact for you. When Venusaur was first being named on A-Drive's playthrough about 4 and a bit years ago, the actual nickname I actually came up with, Asparagus. So yeah, and he's used it ever since.
Fun fact, with the Thick Fat ability, after Mega Evolving, with 172 in defense, we're trying to just mix out all the offensive stats to get a bulk up mostly stuff. You can explain that afterwards. Max HP, 84 in Speed Diff, Giga Drain, Sledge Bomb, Earth Power, and Leech Seed. Now you can go in depth. You'll have RibombeeTeacher.
Of course, the Leech Seed is pretty much spammable against his team. The only immunity to it is, of course, Rillaboom. Rillaboom is not necessarily ever going to switch into a Venusaur because it doesn't want to take a Sludge Bomb anytime soon. Giga Drain is nice because it breaks Gastrodon relatively easy, and of course, Earth Power is nice little coverage. It can actually hit quite a sizable chunk of their team for fairly neutral damage. There's a lot there for Arcanine mostly, which is the likely switch in. The reason for our EV spread, max HP and 172 defense EVs in Bold Nature means that it takes 2 banded Arcanine Flare Blitzers, guaranteed. There's easy survivability. The rest is there in Spadef, just in case there's some special hits coming its way that it doesn't really appreciate, particularly things like Psychic from Mew is an issue. But generally, this thing can sit in for a long time, take hits, stall with Leech Seed and Giga Drain, get a lot of HP back, and just basically be a general nuisance for their team. It's really hard to break you down. Thick Fat is always, of course, nice because that fire weakness and the ice weakness is technically a neutrality now, thanks to the Thick Fat ability.
Now I do have a quick warning. When I calced this, Ribombe, I didn't put Arcanine as adamant, so possibly by the actual match, this might have been changed on the defensive stats. I don't know.
Yeah, most of the time they run Jolly anyway, so Adamant is annoying, but we will pretty much live 2 Flare Blitz is guaranteed anyway because of recovery from Leech Seed or Giga Drain.
Oh yeah. Next Pokemon is Ribombee with an A. Alright, Choice Bix, Shield Dust, 120 in HP, max special attack, 136 in speed, which is again going for that Helios speed tier, which is the fastest Pokemon in their team, non-scarfed, with the Timid Nature, Moonblast, Bug Buzz, Energy Ball, and U-Turn. Would you like to go over your favorite Pokemon or one of your favorite Pokemon, your mascot?
Depends how much longer of the video we got left. Now I'm joking, right? In all seriousness, of course, Ribombee being my mascot, my signature Pokemon. I know a lot of people run Sash sets. Sash sets are okay. They generally give Ribombee a chance to set up sticky webs. We're actually kind of semi-bluffing sticky webs in this matchup because webs actually doesn't do that much against their team. They are generally quite a slow team outside of Heliolisk and Nihilego and any Scarfs or potentially Mew. So their team is not that fast, so sticky webs is actually not that worth it. Moonblast hits the vast majority of this team. Bug Buzz hits a lot of the team that Moonblast doesn't. Energy Ball is there, of course, for that Gastrodon. Gastrodon is highly likely to come, in my opinion, despite Mega Venusaur. Gastro is such a great special wall, it's definitely worth it. U-Turn might seem a little bit odd on a spec set, but it's largely there just to pivot out. I expect Hitmonchan or Mega Scizor to come in on this quite consistently, so being able to U-turn away, get a little bit of chip damage off on them, and then switch into things like the Tapu Fini or the Mudsdale, depending on which comes in. It's a nice little thing. Shield Dust is actually a very underrated ability because it actually makes it immune to fake out flinching, as well as any secondary effects. So a lot of people get tripped up by fake out turn 1 on Ribombee, especially things like Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan really doesn't. Oh, Hitmonchan, I think, gets fake out. I can't remember. Hitmonlee does, and I know Hitmontop does, so I would assume Hitmonchan does. But yeah, it's a nice little bait. It's a nice little bait there that you can do. Fake out turn 1 and Moonblast, knock it out in 1 hit. It's something that happens. I happened to a good friend of mine in a Pixelmon game recently, actually. I did the same trick on them. So yeah, Ribombee, of course, super powerful in this matchup. Definitely going to cause problems. This thing can potentially break their entire team. Moonblast guaranteed kills Zygarde from full, even if it's relatively specially bulky. So that's definitely worth knowing. Moonblast is by far the best move on this set, and I can't wait for this to put in work.
Alright, so So I think we'll go over some stuff before we end of the video though, but that is the team. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, but now let's go over the stuff that is happening with the battle being, the team builder being on my channel, and the battle being on your channel, then swapping it around. You want to go over that, Ribombe, since that was part, your idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as of course, both Tyler and I do record our videos in order to be able to support both our channels, as I know those viewers are separate from both channels. It'd be nice for everyone to support each other on this kind of thing. This is a project that neither Tyler or me have done together before, so it's nice that we're actually doing this. But yeah, so every week we're going to have a team builder on one channel, and the battle will be on the other channel. So I strongly suggest, if you're not subbed to me, you'll be missing the first battle this week if you're not, and vice versa every time round. So make sure you sub to both of us. I'm sure Tyler will put my channel link down in the description of the video if he remembers to do it. If not, I'll shout at him on Discord, I promise. But yeah, so this week the team builder is of course on Tyler's channel, and the battle will be over on my channel. So I look forward to seeing you all in the battle. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we pick up a dub in our first game. Hopefully Tyler doesn't screw us over. But yeah. I think that's pretty much it from us. So why don't you take it away?
Alright guys, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to RibombeeTeacher, go to you guys' Twitch where we also stream some Oras Soul Link over there, and some of his other Pixelmon stuff as well. So peace out guys. You want to say something?
Tyler sucks.
Better late than never.